Hey, what's up, Logic fans? Welcome to our second video on Subject Predicate Discourse. This is video 4.1b, and what we're looking at here are our first new symbolic apparatus, okay? And so there's three of them. We've got property constants, we've got individual variables, and we've got individual constants, all right? So let me explain. A property constant is basically any capital letter of the English alphabet, okay? So A through Z. And we can attach subscripts if we need more, but any capital letter appended with what I'm calling an individual variable. I'm going to explain this in a minute, okay? But you have a capital letter followed by a lowercase x, y, or z, okay? That's the basic idea. So you could have gx, gy, gz, you could have capital A, little x, capital A, little y, okay? All of those are property constants, okay? And then we've got individual constants, which basically play the role of a proper name. So this is going to stand for like Shaq, for example. This is going to stand for Maria, and this is going to stand for, Paul or something, okay? So individual constants are like little name, are our version of proper names. Okay. So let me try to fill this in with an example a little bit here, and you're going to learn how to string all this together properly, but just so you know what we're tracking. So let's take a look at this example here. Here's three subject predicate sentences, okay? My question for you is very, very simple. This is Sesame Street stuff, okay? I want to start simple. What do all three of these subject predicate sentences have in common? Okay, clearly what they have in common is the predicate, right? They all ascribe the property of being powerful to a subject. It's a different subject in each case, but they all ascribe the property of being powerful. And basically then what we're going to do is we would note that, let's do it down here actually, this, okay, this would be read is powerful, all right? So this x here is an individual variable. It doesn't stand for anything in particular. It's sort of a placeholder for one of these individual constants. So for example, the sentence might be written like this. If we wrote PD, that would say Dumbledore is powerful, where D is an individual constant for Dumbledore. It's like the proper name. And this is the property constant is powerful. So this says Dumbledore is powerful. Now remember, and this is important, without an individual constant in here, this isn't an actual sentence. This represents what all of these sentences have in common, just the is powerful part, okay? So it's not a sentence by itself. It's sort of like the form that all three of these sentences have in common, all right? And we can take that form and turn it into a sentence by supplying the individual variable that we've got there with one with an individual constant. So we could supply it with PD. For Voldemort, we could use let's do PM for Voldemort. All right, so this says Voldemort is powerful. Why didn't I use the V? It's totally arbitrary choice, but in this case I don't use the V because individual constants are A through T. V is going to be reserved for something else that we will learn about later, okay? So that's the only reason I didn't use the V there, but any individual constant A through T, okay? And if we need subscripts because we need more of them, we can always do that if we want. And similarly, we could do this. P.S. Snape is powerful, okay? So this all by itself is a sentence. This all by itself is a sentence. This all by itself is a sentence. Notice there's something that can be true or false, okay? This is powerful. That's not a sentence. That's not something that can be true or false. It's the form that a sentence has, right? It's the form of this sentence, and it's the form of all three of these sentences. And so that's the basic idea. So fx, capital F, little x, capital F, little y, capital F, little z, capital P, little x, capital P, little y, capital P, little z. And it doesn't matter which one you use, the x, the y, or the z. It will all stand for is powerful, okay? And I want to emphasize that a property constant is constant in the sense that it stands for some specific property and it doesn't change, all right? So it's a constant in that it stands for, in this case, px. We're saying px stands for is powerful, and it doesn't change to like is tall or is nice or is mean or something arbitrarily. It's sort of like set in stone that it always stands for some specific definite property. Okay, so that's the basic idea there. All right, your individual constants are like proper names, like Dumbledore, Voldemort, Snape. Okay, and then you've got individual variables, which we're going to talk a lot about later, but for now they just sort of stand for placeholders for property constants that can be filled in with actual individual constants, thus yielding a sentence. Okay, so that's the big idea there. So to make sure we're on the same page about this, let's go ahead and try to symbolize these sentences that we talked about in the previous video. So you've got these 5 subject predicate sentences, and I lost the 4th one, but the 4th one was John is no slouch. Okay, it's not the case that John is a slouch, so we're going to bring this one back in, and I'm going to say a few things about it. But let's go through and make sure that we understand this. So my first question for you is, how would you symbolize this sentence using our new notation? Okay, and what would your individual constant be? And what would your property constant be? And similarly for all of them. So just try maybe the first one for now, and then we'll work through that one together, and then you can try the rest. But try the first one right now by yourself. Okay, so hopefully you had a chance to think on this. All right, but there's not really any rhyme or reason to which, property constant you use. But in this case, we're going to use the little s to stand for shack, and, tx to stand for the property of being tall. Or it could be ty, or it could be tz. You could have also used capital A, but t makes sense just because of tall. Okay, so that's sort of an arbitrary choice. The individual constant we used in this case was, of course, s, which is our proper name for shack. Okay, so given that way of doing it, if you haven't had a chance to do the rest of these, go ahead and try to do this now. Try to do it for the rest of the sentences 2, 3, 4, and 5. Pause now. All right, well, this is pretty straightforward stuff, right? So you're learning how to symbolize newly predicate, subject predicate sentences like Maria is nice. So we'll use NM to stand for Maria is nice. The individual constant we used was M for Maria, and we'll use NY. Okay, that stands for Maria is nice. Okay, this stands for is nice. Okay, and this should be lowercase like that. Sorry about that. And yeah, there's not a whole lot more to it than that, but I do want to draw your attention to the fact that, notice, like before we were symbolized a sentence like this, Shaq is tall, with just like a capital T, right? That was the propositional way of doing it. Now you've got like a little s and a t, you've got a property constant and an individual constant. There's a lot more action and dynamism going on, so our symbolization is getting a bit more sophisticated as desired, okay? So just wanted to point that out to you. Try 3, 4, and 5 now. Let's see. Paul went to the movies. Okay, so we'll just say Paul went to the movies. We'll do it like this. And our individual constant is P, lowercase, of course. And went to the movies. We'll just say MZ. Okay, went to the movies. Something like that. All right. Okay, if you really want to render this, you could think of it as Paul. If you like the Shaq is, Maria is, and you want Paul is, you could put Paul is such that he went to the movies, and then you could have the property being such that you went to the movies. Okay, would be this one, right? So you can always render it in this strict is form if that's bothering you, if you had to. All right, John is no slouch. This one does introduce a little bit of a complication, and it's something that I really, really want to stress right from the outset, okay? We do not have properties like is no slouch or is not a slouch, okay? There's no such properties. Our property constants will never stand for something like that. Any kind of negation involved is going to be handled by our tilde symbol, and so you're going to have a property like is a slouch, right? Or being a slouch would be the property, and we have the language is a slouch, okay, to work with. But you're always going to sort of symbolize it positively without the not embedded in there, and you're going to use the negation symbol to handle the not. So we could symbolize it this way as an example, where J is the symbol for John. It's the individual constant, and our property constant is just Sx, where X is a slouch. Okay, so this is a slouch, and we're saying it's not the case that J is a slouch. Okay, so the not always gets symbolized out here and is never baked into the property. Okay, that's just a standing convention that you need to adopt straight away. Okay, 5 is prime. Not too bad. We'll just do PF, where F is our constant for 5, and let's do PZ for Z is prime. Okay, or is prime would be the proper way of understanding it. So these are our actual new sentences that we're learning how to symbolize, and we can symbolize subject predicate discourse this way. And we've got our individual constants to do that, along with our property constants. All right. All right. So let's just keep hammering this so that you really feel comfortable, like you got it. Okay. Let's use these property constants to stand for these properties, okay, as follows, and we're going to translate these sentences into symbolic notation. So for example, for the first one, 3 is odd. Well, we're going to have to pick. I didn't give you individual constants, but the subject here is 3, so we're going to use an individual constant for that, and we're going to say big O, little t, where t stands for the number 3, okay? So that would be our symbolization of this sentence in our new symbolic apparatus. Run through these and see if you can figure those out. Hopefully it doesn't take you too long. Pause now. Okay, practice makes perfect, and this is just going to build your confidence with this new stuff. And like I said, I want to take it easy at first. Okay, so Usain Bolt is fast, so we're going to say FB, where B stands for Usain Bolt. Remember, we cannot use the lowercase u. It's an individual constant is any lowercase letter A through T, and nothing after that, right? Certainly not X, Y, or Z, right? Because those are individual constants. All right, Mark Twain is an author, so we'll use A and M for Mark Twain. 5 is odd. We'll use capital O, F, all right, like that. The speed of light is fast, so the speed of light in a vacuum actually is approximately 3 times 10 to the 8th meters per second. So it's incredibly fast. Let's see here. Is fast, so we're going to use this property constant, and then we'll want something for the speed of light in a vacuum out of some sort of convention. We'll use the lowercase c for that. Rambo is an author, which is true. Let's do capital A, little r. All right. 11 is odd, so we'll do O. Let's do O E. The Flash is fast, so let's do capital F, little f. All right, where this is an individual constant for the Flash, the comic book character. This is a capital F, like this, which is a predicate, is a property constant, okay? And then Charles Dickens is an author, capital A, little d. Again, just as we did with propositional symbolizations, even sentences that are false get symbolized the same way. So if I said 10 is odd, right? It would still get symbolized, let's say, let's just use N for 10. It would still get symbolized ON. That says 10 is odd. It's just that it's false, okay? So they get symbolized the same way. It's not like you change how you symbolize based on whether the sentence is true or false. Okay. All right, so what we're going to do then is pick up this conversation, and I've got some important more things to show you in the next video, so do check out 4.1C. Catch you there.